meeting to order. On behalf of the Planning Commission, I'd like to welcome our residents and viewers to this regular meeting of July 11th, 2023. On tonight's agenda, we have 2 public hearings and 1 discussion item. Before we open the public hearings, we have a housekeeping item to take care of. That would be the minutes, 2 sets of minutes, one from the May 30th, 2023 special meeting and one from the June 13th regular meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? If not, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second to approve. All in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Minutes are approved. Thank you. With that then, we'll open both public hearings at this time. We'll take them in order as shown on the agenda. The first public hearing is a conditional use permit for a grocery store within the B1 zoning district. The address is 705 A Street. Tony, you going to take this one?
I will. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commission members. The applicant has requested a second continuation of this public hearing. They're still working through their architect to get some updated plans. Staff has requested them to provide some additional information. They're working through that process. It's just taking a little longer than they had hoped. So they're asking it to be continued to the August regular meeting.
All right, thank you, Tony. I look for a motion then to continue the public hearing until August 8th. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion to continue. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion to continue. Call the roll, please.
Winchidle.
Yes.
Teske.
Yes.
Roddy.
Yes.
Lado.
Yes.
Maccabee.
Yes.
All right then, our second public hearing is a request for a conditional use permit to allow a commercial child daycare center at 310 Division Street. The applicant is Creative Wonders Childcare. Jared, you're going to take this.
Yes, thank you, Chair, Planning Commission members. Pull up the PowerPoint here. So as the chair stated, this is a request for a conditional use permit for a commercial child daycare center located at 310 Division Street. The applicant is Angela Petrie, who is the owner of Creative Wonders Childcare. Creative Wonders currently has locations in Eagan, Invergrove Heights, and Oak Grove. And this Farmington location would add roughly 135 childcare slots with 15 to 20 staff positions. This property is zoned B2 downtown business where commercial child daycare uses are conditional use. The property is 3.35 acres with a 6,730 square foot vacant office building, shed, and 3 detached garages. And the Vermilion River does run through the western side of the site. So the applicant proposes just utilizing the existing building on site by renovating the interior. So the renovated spaces would include a reception area, staff lounge, office and kitchen area, flex room, 2 infant rooms, 2 toddler rooms, a pre-K room, a room for 5 to 8-year-olds, and then a room for 9 to 11-year-olds. As you can see on the screen up here, this is where the kitchen, staff, and office area would be next to the entrance, reception area next to this big flex room, which would lead outdoor to the outdoor play areas, and then the rooms for the rest of the age groups in the main part of the building over here with staff parking out over to this side. The exterior changes, there are 2 fenced-in outdoor play areas proposed to be separated by age group. The floodplain of the Vermilion River does encroach in these play areas slightly, so no structures or impervious surfaces are going to be allowed in that area. The DNR has reviewed the plans and they have no concerns with them. As far as parking goes, there are no parking requirements in the B2 district, but there are 59 stalls provided, which is ample parking space for this use. Parent parking drop-off will be located to the east building for easy traffic flow through this one-way entrance up here at the northern part of the site. Go into the site, park, drop off, and then exit this one-way exit, and staff will just go through to the staff parking here on the south side. The detached garages here on the south end of the site are not allowed to be used for childcare areas, only for storage. As the commission knows, there's 6 requirements CUPs must meet per city code. Staff believes that this application has met all 6 of those requirements. And so the action requested for you tonight is to approve the requested conditional use permit for a commercial child daycare center at 310 Division Street, contingent on 6 conditions. One being that all building permits are obtained. 2, a signed permit shall be obtained for any exterior signage. 3, a fence plan outlining the height, distance, and materials shall be submitted to the planning department for approval prior to any fencing being erected. 4, the 3 detached garages will not allowed to be used as childcare areas. 5, any changes to the location of the trash and recycling area shall be submitted to the planning department for approval. And then 6, 2 additional striped directional arrows shall be added at each end of the parent parking drop-off area, and 1 arrow should be added at the exit as shown on sheet AC 102. And this is just to reinforce the traffic flow throughout the site.
Thank you, Jared. With us tonight are the applicants, Mr. and Mrs. Petrie, and then their broker. Did you have anything to add to the staff report?
Thank you, Jared. Thank you, council members. My name is Greg Rance. I'm from KW commercial brokerage firm, and I've helped locate the site for my client. We're delighted to be here. Happy to answer questions that you may have this evening, and thanks for having us.
Okay. If you can stay available, I know we have one resident that is from the area, and I don't know, Robin, if you have any comments or questions. This is the time to ask or state them. Robin, could you please come up to the podium? You can't hear.
I'm sorry, I'm not coming up to the podium.
Okay, can you state your name and address, please?
Robin Ryan, 443 Whispering River Lane, townhouses right behind you guys. Hours of operation, I assume 6 to 6? 6 to 5:30. 6 to 5:30. 135 children in that building? We believe so with the square footage, but DHS can make that ruling for us when they come up measure it.
What's happening is we're getting questions and our viewers unfortunately can't hear them. So would you please come up there? And the question is hours of operation. And Ms. Petrie, will you please go through that for us?
Hours of operation will be 6 to 5:30, Monday through Friday only. And then she asked about 135 children. We said yes, but DHS will make that ruling when they come out and measure it.
Okay. Other questions, Robin?
No, I just have concerns as a resident, noise and traffic.
Okay. Noise and traffic are your concerns then? Okay.
Well, I can let you know this. Children usually don't go outside until 10. They're usually out until about noon. And then in the afternoons, they go out from about 4 to 5, maybe 5:30, and that's the only time that they're outside. If that helps. Okay.
I am still concerned about traffic between the FAA and Schmidt Arena. It seems there's traffic 24/7 on the
Yeah, do you face Spruce Street, Robin?
Yes, I do.
So more of the traffic on Spruce, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which when they're coming and going, they're gonna pull in one end and come out the other, 'cause it's gonna be.
Yeah, is very possible, Robin, or they're gonna go back to the north and go, east or west on 50. That'd be the other option, or go east on Spruce rather than west by your place.
So with the increased traffic, are you talking traffic signal on Division Street and Elm?
That would be a county road, right, Tony?
That's a county road. They would have to make that determination. My guess is that it still would not meet warrants for that, is my guess. But that would be a county decision.
And the county does traffic studies periodically, Tony, and that's something they would look at?
They look at their county system periodically, and then if it's determined that it is warranted, they put it in their CIP
Yep.
at that time.
So it won't be right away, that won't be right, if this place does open, it won't be right away when that opens, but they'll be looking at it at some point in time.
Last question, when do you plan on opening?
We are hoping, depending upon construction, by January of 2024.
All right, sounds good. Commissioner Teskey?
Oh, all great questions. Thank you. I think this looks good. My only question is with regard to the fenced play areas and the impervious surface. What are your intentions there for a playground or play space?
We're gonna put 2 separate areas, one for toddlers and one for preschool. DHS requires 1,500 square feet, and I believe we have way more than that. So we'll just fence it all the way around, and the only way to get into that fenced area is through the building, and the only way to get out is through the fenced area as well.
Are you going to leave it as grass, the entire space, or will there be?
No, unfortunately, we need to have, DHS requires us to have, if we have play sets, it has to have 6 inches of fall space.
Yep.
So we have to comply to their surface requirements.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all I have.
Commissioner Winchell?
No, I think the only question, as far as the fence, do you have any style of fence in mind that you're gonna put up, or is it gonna be a, a white plastic fence? I'm just thinking for noise purpose too, if that was an issue, but.
I don't know what my architect had planned, but I would like it to be solid, because yeah, the space, and then I have chain link fence at my other places. I don't like it too much. Kids put toys through it and wood chips and everything else, so I'm hoping for a solid one, but I don't know what my subcontractor and architect have planned at this time.
Sure. No, it looks great. Good plan. Thanks.
Commissioner Leto?
Yeah, I think it looks good. The question I have is, have you started taking applications for spaces for kids to come in?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Nope, it's
So-
a long process because we have to get DHS to first come out. After you submit all of the paperwork, after I actually find out what my architect has planned, then you have to send everything to DHS. They can take anywhere from 3 to 4 months to get that, but then they'll schedule your visit like a week later. So I haven't yet, but we can announce it on our website that we're coming and approaching. And I know I have some clients that are at my Egan that are looking to move more south, so.
Okay. And do you have more of a breakdown of the timeframes for each of these phases? I'm just curious because I don't really see it on here. How long each of the phases do you expect those to take?
I don't yet because we're still working out the plan as far as the space with the architect. I believe he just sent me something and we're still working on getting into the building to do our inspections. So I don't have them yet.
Okay. And then as far as, and Tony, this might be a question for you as well. I just drove through the parking lot. Is there any plans to resurface that? Because there's a lot of weeds and things growing through. Doesn't seem super even there. Is there any requirement or anything to make sure that the parking lot's cleaned up at all?
We have a weed ordinance. If it's a foot or higher, then we can enforce it that way. Other than that, that's the only requirement.
How about if we defer the question to Ms. Petrie? Did you have any plans to update the parking lot?
Absolutely. We want it to be pretty and get rid of the weeds and everything else like that. And then we're gonna have to add the arrows anyway, so it'd be just wise to redo the blacktop and then put those arrows in there for the parents and staff and everyone else.
And that's what your parents are gonna first see,
Yep.
and your customers are gonna first see when they come, so you want it to be presentable.
Exactly.
And then do you have currently plans for the signage at all? Do you have that planned out or is that farther along?
That's farther along, but it will be our logo like we typically do with our hours of
Okay.
operation on there.
And you wouldn't have the location for that yet? So you don't know necessarily where you would place it? I'm just curious.
I believe there's a sign out front of the building already. We would just replace the sign that's there.
Okay, sounds good. The last question I have is, as I drove through the parking lot, there was a small fenced area. I don't know if there's some kind of venting or something for the air conditioner, because looks like a large box for the AC unit, but then there was a small fenced-in area that's broken and has zip tied at the front. I'm assuming that that'll be fixed as well as part of
Correct.
that. Okay.
Absolutely.
Great. That's all.
DHS will require it for the safety of the kids.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Commissioner McAbey?
Yeah, I drove through it too, and I think it looks like a good plan and a good use for that space. They pretty much asked everything I was going to ask, so I don't really have anything further. It looks good.
Thank you.
Petrie, sure sounds like you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So,
It's the first time I've ever done anything like this. The 3 I have before. The 2 I opened from ground up by myself. The 3rd one I took over. So this is my actual first one of actually having to do an application that wasn't already a daycare already. So
Okay.
it's nerve-wracking, but it's fun.
Well, and Robin, you asked some great questions. Those are questions that would have surfaced, so I appreciate you asking them. I think there's a need in this community. I think it's a great use for that building, I really do. I think you got a applicant here that is gonna put up a quality facility, and I think the parents and the important things of the children are gonna enjoy it there. One thing this commission always looks at when we have a daycare is the safety of the kids. So you got a river behind you. You
Yeah.
know that, so just be cautious with that, and you've done it before, so any safety initiatives you need to take, you're gonna do that, I'm confident, so.
Absolutely.
All right, I have no issues. I would support this conditional use permit. Anything else? Robin, did we answer everything? All right, thank you. Ms. Petrie, I do have one question for you also while you're up there. do you agree to the contingencies that were outlined in the staff report?
Yes.
Okay, because there were 6 of them, and you're comfortable with all of them? Okay, just want to make sure we do that. With that, I look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second, call the roll, please.
Teske.
Yes.
Roddy.
Yes.
Lado.
Yes.
McAbey.
Yes.
Winchell.
Yes.
In front of the commission then is a conditional use permit to allow a commercial child daycare center at 310 Division Street with the 6 contingencies that the applicants agreed to. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion for approval, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second, any more discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Roddy.
Yes.
Lado.
Yes.
McAbey.
Yes.
Winchell.
Yes.
Teske.
Yes.
Thank you. Welcome to the community.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we'll move into our discussion item. That's a draft ordinance amendment, 10629, chickens on urban residential lots.
I'll take this from here if that's all right.
That's fine.
Have a draft ordinance amendment before you this evening. Back in May, we briefly discussed this particular portion of code. We've been asked by a couple different, well, a specific individual to potentially look at the ordinance and make any updates that both staff and the planning commission sees fit for that. Some of the major changes, I guess, within the draft ordinance that I'm proposing at this point is making the initial permit administrative. So instead of having to come before the planning commission, it would be handled administratively through Jared or myself. It'd be removing the requirement of the public hearing for that initial permit as well. However, I did keep in some language that the adjacent property owners would at least be notified that we did receive a application. Wouldn't necessarily be for any kind of public hearing or anything like that, just making them aware. And if they have questions, they can contact us directly and try to deal with those that way. It removes the requirement that the property has to be located within the R1 zoning district. It allows for a permit on any property that's developed for single-family dwelling within a residential zoning district. So it opens that up a little bit as well. It adds some clarification dealing with identifying the exterior finish materials for the coop and run, along with the proposed construction method of both of those items. It adds some additional verbiage that states any other information that the zoning administrator deems necessary to evaluate the application for compliance with the requirements of this section of the code. So if we're reviewing it, we see something that may be missing or that we feel is necessary for us to make a determination on the application, this code then would provide us that ability to do that. The ordinance does change the time period for the approval of administrative renewal permit, so we would still require that. However, it would go from a yearly renewal to I'm proposing every 2 years. I'm open to suggestions on that as well, but that's at least what I'm suggesting at this point in time. And then the last thing is adding verbiage that eggs from chickens are for personal use and consumption by the owners of the chicken and may not be offered for sale or sold. So those are the major changes that I have in the draft ordinance, and it is only a draft ordinance, so it's okay if you have changes to it. So, but that's what I'm proposing as of right now.
Now's the time to discussion, and at the end of our discussion, we'll talk about the next step, okay? We'll start with Phil.
Just looking at the time period, so every 2 years, and then with the approval of the permit, is there some sort of inspection? Is that part of the
Yeah, we would
approval?
still do an
Okay.
inspection just like we do now.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it'd be every 2 years, they have to reapply 30 days prior then?
Yeah, and mainly the re-inspections to make sure that, number one, they don't have more than
Yes, yeah.
the number of chickens that we are allowing. And with this, I think I forgot to mention, we are looking to increase that from 3 to 4. So, if that's acceptable. So, but yes, we would do an inspection every 2 years after that initial permit.
Perfect, that was my concern, because if we didn't do an inspection, they'd.
No, I would still do an inspection.
No, they're not. I think it looks good. I think it's very feasible.
Leanne?
I guess I'm looking at item C, termination of the permit. So if they, moves from the premises, is there any kind of requirement for removal of the shelter at all?
Yeah, that would have to be,
Okay.
yep, that would have to be removed upon them moving out.
Upon transfer of the property?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was in there.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Becca?
No, I think it looks good. I think it's having it administrative, at least initially, is the way to go. I don't, to my knowledge, I mean, I haven't been on the commission all that long, but we haven't had anybody ever come and oppose this too much. So I think that's the way to go, and well, it looks good.
Krista?
Yeah, I think this looks great. I like the idea of moving it to a more administrative approach. I wonder if we'll get more people. But we'll see. But otherwise, I think it looks great overall, so.
You know, and I think as Becca mentioned, we've talked about it, and we've had, Tony, you could tell me exactly how many chicken permits in the last decade or whatever. And commissions went through it. Don't know if we've ever had a neighbor. If we
I
have,
don't think we've ever had a neighbor even show
I
up
don't
for
think
one
so
of the
either.
hearings.
And I've inspected all of them. And so, you know, I think the intention of this commission was to make it less formal, less time-consuming, and less costly for our residents. So I asked the commission, do you think this does that to a degree? I mean, we don't want to go so far one way that, you know, pretty soon we have, you know, an issue with chicken, you know, what's rural and what's residential. Everybody okay with, you know, including any residential? I mean, we talked about R1. We wanted it because for size a lot. Is everybody okay with the smaller lots that, you know, the neighbors could be closer?
They could be closer. We still have the requirements for the screening and
Screening
things
would
like
still
that.
be
They
there.
would still have to meet that. So that's not going to change. It's just a matter that you will likely have them closer to adjacent properties.
You could, you know, and that may be a cause for additional neighbor concern with noise, you know, so that's something that staff will have to be aware of, especially when this is administrative in nature now. Not that the future, or I shouldn't say that, the inspections after the fact of the public hearing were always a staff issue anyway, and complaints, so it's similar. Everybody okay with the renewal, the 2-year renewal? I mean, that's part of the less costly, you know, rather than having to renew it. Several of our permits have, what's the right word, decided not to continue.
Correct.
So, I
Correct.
mean, you know, this gives them at least an opportunity to give it a couple years and see if they want to continue.
On the residential part, you know, houses being closer, potentially. So during the approval process for the permit, do you guys look or take into consideration if there have been complaints about noise or?
That would be part of that consideration. Absolutely.
We've eliminated, it has to be single family, it can't be a duplex, even though some may consider that single family, it's not.
I have changed that. In the
Yeah.
previous ordinance, we did allow that, but I specifically changed that with this to only develop for single-family
Okay.
uses.
I did have a question on, and I'm fine with administrative rather than a public hearing. And I always wondered, okay, if I were a neighbor and I had a question or maybe even a concern, you're still gonna, in your letter to them, explain how they can
Oh,
voice
absolutely.
that and be included. Not that we've
Absolutely.
had any, but,
Yep.
you know.
Oh,
things may
absolutely.
change.
We'll give them ample opportunity to provide any input.
Okay. And it's been years since I've been on the farm, but I don't know if, does anybody have a concern with going from 3 to 4 hen chickens? Still no roosters, just hen chickens?
Just hen chickens.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anybody have a concern with that, 3 to 4? Okay.
And typically what I've found, and I did share this at the last meeting when we discussed this, typically what I'm finding is that the surrounding communities are anywhere from 3 to 6. It
Yeah.
varies widely. But that's usually the sweet spot, that 3 to 6.
Yeah.
So,
You know, and this will give our city council will be the final group that'll decide on this, but it's not significant changes, it's minor changes that I think hopefully will do with the intention of the commission about less formal, less time consuming, and less costly.
Yep.
For our residents. So I think it does those. You know, the one issue I got is the higher density,
Right.
you know, that's was my
That's a
bigger
concern.
that I had, and, rather than the R1, I understood, and, you know, I was, at least had a voice in it back when it was created, and, you know,
I wonder if the setback requirements though may kind of alleviate that a little bit, like.
yeah, no
Right.
doubt, yeah, that's why that's why I wanna make sure that we're comfortable, you know, we'll see where our council is on this and go with it. And that leads me to what I mentioned, we should make a decision on where to go next. Are we comfortable sending this to our city council, or,
We will need to hold a public hearing on it,
okay, to the commission level?
correct?
Okay, so that would be our next step then.
That would be the next
So,
step.
Ready to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So Tony, you'll set the public
And
hearing?
we'll set the public hearing for the August meeting,
All right, that'd be great.
so,
I appreciate it.
absolutely.
So, all right. And, that completes our agenda. Is there anything else from staff?
I have nothing, sir.
Anything else from the commission? If not, I'll remind the